It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Mm.
How much of our lives, our choices, what we, hold to be true,
Mm.
it's all built on faith.
This sort of bedrock conviction, it guides so much.
Absolutely. And when you start digging into that, the whole idea of belief, you find some incredibly deep stuff. Today, we're doing just that, diving into a really key text on the Bhagavad Gita.
And specifically, chapter 17, it's called Sraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga,
Which, yeah.
or roughly the yoga of the division of the threefold faith. And
Yeah.
that word, Shraddha, it's crucial.
Right. Often translated as faith, but it's more, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's got this sense of deep trust in scripture, trust in a teacher, a real fundamental conviction. But what's so interesting here in this chapter is that it doesn't just say faith is faith.
No, it breaks it down.
Exactly, into
Right.
3 specific kinds.
Which is fascinating. And you, our listener, you've shared some great sources with us touching on different parts of the Gita. We felt this chapter, looking at these 3 kinds of Shraddha, well, it just offers such a clear lens.
It really does. It can reveal the hidden currents, the motivations behind what we do spiritually and even just day to day.
Yeah, expect some aha moments, I think. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. Let's understand these 3 types of Shraddha, just as Krishna lays them out in chapter 17.
We'll start with the chapter starts with Arjuna's question.
Yep.
And then we'll get into Krishna's explanation.
Perfect. And just a quick note, our next deep dive will actually wrap up our look at the Gita with the final chapter. Okay, so chapter 17. It kicks off with a question from Arjuna. What sets the stage here?
Well, Arjuna is looking for clarity from Krishna. Now, our specific sources for chapter 17 don't give us his exact question about Shraddha word for word.
Okay.
But we can piece it together from the flow. Remember back near the end of chapter 7, Krishna started talking about understanding him in different ways, Brahman, Adhyatma, Karma, all that.
Which led straight into chapter 8, where Arjuna was like, okay, wait, what is Brahman? What is Athyatma?
Exactly that pattern. Krishna introduces something complex, maybe something Arjuna hadn't fully grasped before, and Arjuna naturally asks for more detail. That's what seems to be happening here as chapter 17 opens. He's following up on something.
It's that learning curve, isn't it? You get one piece, then you need to know how it connects. So if we infer, based on everything they've discussed already, action, knowledge, devotion, all those big themes.
Things we've touched on from chapters 3, 4, 9.
Right. What do you think was really bugging Arjuna about Shraddha? What was he trying to pin down?
Well, it seems pretty likely he wanted to know how this faith, this Shraddha, connects to your spiritual path, and importantly, how it connects to your actions.
Ah, the action part again.
Yeah.
That keeps coming up.
It's central. The Gita talks so much about acting without attachment to the results, right? We saw that emphasized in relation to chapter 4, chapter 18.
The detachment is key.
So Arjuna's probably thinking, okay, is there a type of faith that helps with that? Does the quality of my belief affect how well my actions work, spiritually speaking? Does it affect whether I get closer to, moksha?
Liberation.
Liberation, yeah. These seem like the logical questions for him at this point. He's trying to bridge that gap between inner belief and outer action.
That makes total sense. How does what's inside translate to what you do? Okay, so Arjuna asks his question. Krishna responds. What's the framework he uses? How does he break down Shraddha?
Krishna brings in a concept we've seen before, the 3 gunas.
Oh, okay. The qualities of nature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sattva, which is goodness, purity, harmony. Rajas, passion, activity, desire. And tamas, ignorance, inertia, delusion. He says Shraddha manifests according to these 3 qualities.
It's like the gunas are the underlying code for everything else. Actions, knowledge, even food, as we've seen.
Pretty much. It's a really comprehensive way the Gita explains human nature and motivation.
Okay, so let's tackle them one by one. Start with the first one, Sattvic Shraddha. What does that look like? What defines it?
Sattvic Shraddha. Well, it's rooted in purity, in understanding, and a real sense of duty.
Duty.
Yeah. The conviction here makes you act because it's simply the right thing to do. There's no calculation of what's in it for me, no looking for rewards or applause.
Like being honest just because honesty is right, not because you might get praised for it?
Precisely. It connects to that idea we saw from chapter 9 about offering actions as worship. That's seen as higher than acting out of selfish desires.
So it's internally driven, pure motivation. And what's the effect of acting with this sattvic faith? Where does it lead?
The Gita suggests it leads toward inner purification, and ultimately it helps clear the path to moksha, to liberation.
Also,
Well, think about those actions like sacrifice, charity, austerity mentioned in chapter 18, verses 5 to 7. When they're done without attachment, they purify even wise people.
Right.
So acting with the sattvic sense of duty, this detachment, it helps you untangle yourself from karma, from the whole cycle of birth and death. It's like tidying up your inner world.
Creating space for peace and clarity. Okay, that paints a clear picture of sattvic. Let's switch gears to the second type, Rajasic Sraddha. What's the feel of this one?
Oh, Rajasic is very different. It's fueled by passion, by a strong drive for results, and often quite a bit of ego.
Ego, okay.
People with this kind of Sraddha are motivated by what they expect to get. Personal gain, ambition fulfilled. Chapter 18 links Rajas directly to actions done with great effort, specifically seeking the fruits, being attached to them.
So it's much more transactional. I do this, so I get that.
Mm-hmm.
The focus is squarely on the payoff.
That's a good way to put it, yes.
And what happens when you operate from this Rajasic space? What are the results?
Well, you often do get results. The ambitions might be achieved, the desires met, but
There's always a but.
there's always a but. It keeps you spinning on the wheel of desire and attachment. We talked about this relating to chapters 14 and 3, that constant striving keeps you bound. Chapter 4 even calls attachment to results a primary form of bondage. So yeah, you might get what you want short term, but it just fuels the next desire, keeps you chasing.
It's that classic treadmill, isn't it? Always needing the next thing for satisfaction. Okay, Rajasic Sraddha, understood. That leaves the third type. Tamasic Sraddha. What are its hallmarks?
Tamasic Sraddha is linked to ignorance, delusion, inertia.
Inertia, like sluggishness.
Yeah, a lack of clarity, a lack of drive towards understanding. It's the kind of faith that leads to actions done without real comprehension, maybe neglecting duties or...
Yep.
Well, the general vibe of tamas throughout the Gita is negative, confused.
So it might involve blindly following things without questioning or understanding why.
And that could definitely be part of it, a sort of unthinking adherence, maybe based on misinformation or just inertia, not really engaging with the why.
It sounds like it could lead you down the wrong path, even unintentionally, just from a lack of awareness.
Wow.
Okay, so these three cover a huge range. Looking at them together, Sankhya, Rajasic, Tamasic, what are the big takeaways?
I think the most crucial takeaway is that these aren't like fixed personality types. You're not just sattvic or just rajasic.
Right, it's not a label.
No, they're more like tendencies, influences, and you can absolutely have a mix of them active in different parts of your life at different times.
Can you give an example?
Sure. You might approach your job with a lot of rajasic drive, ambition, wanting results, but maybe in your family life you operate more from a sattvic place, duty, care, without expecting something specific back.
That's a really important distinction. It's about recognizing these forces within us. So how does knowing about these three types actually help you, the listener? What's the practical value day to day?
Well, understanding them gives you a powerful tool for self-awareness. You can start to look at your own beliefs, your actions, and ask, okay, why do I believe this? What's really driving this action? Is it coming from that clear sense of sattvic duty? Is it driven by a rajasic desire for a specific outcome? Or is there maybe some tamasic inertia or confusion involved?
And just asking the question is the first step.
Exactly. That awareness is the key. It's the first step towards consciously choosing to cultivate more sattvic ways of being and acting, which the Gita points to as the path towards, inner peace and liberation. It's about understanding your own programming, so to speak.
Like getting a look under the hood at your own motivations. And this whole framework, this insight, it comes from the Gita, which, as we've heard, is seen as the very essence of the Vedas and Upanishads.
Precisely. It's ancient wisdom offering a very practical lens for self-understanding.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. We've dug into chapter 17 of the Gita, exploring Sraddha, and it's clear. Faith, trust is not just one thing.
Nope. It shows up in these three distinct flavors colored by the gunas.
And seeing those influences, sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, that's really fundamental for self-awareness, for understanding why we believe what we believe and why we do what we do.
Which leads to a great question for you to mull over. Think about your life work, relationships, hobbies, spiritual practice. Where does each type of Sraddha seem strongest for you?
Ooh, that's a deep one.
And maybe consider, how might just being aware of these tendencies change how you approach things?
Definitely something to reflect on. And as we said earlier, our next deep dive will be the final chapter of the Gita. So maybe think about how this understanding of Sraddha, these different kinds of faith, might feed into the Gita's ultimate conclusions.
A perfect bridge.
Indeed. Until then, keep asking those insightful questions.